Hey, welcome to the 17 Law Studio. Today we're going to talk about parenting. We're going to talk about teenagers. We're going to talk about kids. We're going to talk about all those fun things. And the way I'm going to do it is the way I've been doing it, and that is I'm doing Q&A. You guys send me a bunch of questions. I have a ton of people asking me, you ask me all these questions, and over time, I group these up, and then I'll start answering them in these videos and these podcasts, and so I hope this helps doing it this way. If you so shoot me Russ at the 17laws.com, shoot these over to me, and then that way we can. I just want to talk about the things that are concerning you, the issues that you're having in your family. I want you. I don't want to talk about some pie in the sky thing that I've dealt with. I want to deal with the things that you're dealing with today. So with that in mind, let's just jump right in. So the first question is, hey, my uh, child's school is not doing a very good job. Well, there's about 3 or 4 questions the same way, rather than read all of them. What they're saying is these kids are going to school and they're not learning the things that the parents think they ought to be learning at school. And then, so with that in mind, I know not everybody feels this way, but I have a different philosophy. I feel like the responsibility of training our children is on us, on the parents. It's our responsibility to train our kids. But Russ, we send them to school. They're supposed to learn all these things at school. Well, at the same time, you still have to work with them at night, not just homework, but going over what they learned during the day, that sort of thing. In fact, I have several friends that are in the school system, and they'll tell you they know exactly which kids the parents are involved in their life and which parents are not involved in their life. So if you think one teacher who has 20, 30 kids in their class, and they have some kids who don't pay attention and they're distraction, then you have some of the brilliant kids in there too. So you have all this, and somehow in that short period of time that they have them, they're supposed to do an amazing job of teaching complex information to your children. It's just really, really hard. So we've never actually in our family said, hey, that's not their responsibility. That's our responsibility to see that they get it. Appreciate your help. Just like going to church, are we going to turn our spiritual lives of our children over to the youth pastor or to the church and hope it all works out? No, we're still going to be intimately involved in that. So it's our job. So this really happened. We went to Chick-fil-A, and I ordered a dozen cookies, and they said we don't sell them by the dozen. And I said, well, what do you sell them by? And they said 3 and 6. Can I get 2 orders of 6? And she said, oh yeah, absolutely. Pull right around. And of course, people in the car kind of snickered. But I'm thinking, where are the parents? Whose responsibility? Are we blaming the school system because this young girl doesn't know what a dozen is, or how do you get to a dozen, or can't connect the dots that 2 6s is a dozen? Uh, I, I think most kids have the capacity to be smart. Honestly, I believe most kids are smart and they can do well. It's just that we've abdicated our role as parents and said we're not going to be the ones to teach them. We're gonna push that off on the church. We're gonna push that off on the school system or private or public school system, and then we're gonna hope it all works out. That's how we parent. That's how we parent. All the things we want them to do, we're gonna push it out there because we're spending good money on that. We're spending a lot of time in that, so it should work, and we're gonna wish them luck. Heck, even the kids. I remember coaching baseball, coaching basketball. I knew which kids only practiced at practice, and I could tell which kids had a parent involved helping them when they're not at practice. So you send them to the coach, and you hope it all works out. Coach has a baseball team, 20 players or whatever it is, and some of them are terrible. Some of them shouldn't be there. Some of them are there because their mother's making them or whatever. And then you got some really good ball players. But you got to spend so much time with the others. But you say, well, I just want my kid to make it to the major leagues, and I'm going to turn it over to the coach and hope it all works out. It just doesn't work that way. And this is something. This is why I think as parents, it's on us. It's on us to make sure it happens. Now, Now, there may be some things where you go to the school system and go to the teacher and show in a nice, respectful, diplomatic way, because they got really hard jobs when they teach. If you're a teacher, you got a really hard job. So you go teach school, you go to the teacher and you say, "Hey, my kid's not getting math or history or whatever," and you say, "How can I help him?" And she may say, "Well, he's falling asleep in class, or he's playing with his friends. He won't listen." Or she may say, "Thank you so much for caring enough. Yes, you can help. This is the work I'm sending them, and he's not turning it all in. Could you make sure he gets his work done? And I think you'll be fine. You got a really smart child." Those are the kind of conversations you can have. But let me ask you this: what's the top 10 things or top 5 things that you want out of your child? Well, I mean, what do you want your child to? Hey, if when my child turns 18, these are the things I want to make sure. If we don't learn anything else, this is what I want them to learn. I would, I say for my children, I would say honesty, integrity, good work ethic, be kind, giving, whatever. I would think, I mean, I would want to be good at some math, whether it's business math or whatever. I probably want to know history. So they understand that we don't want to repeat some of the crazy things that happen in world history. But at the end of the day, with honesty, integrity, loving kindness, good work ethic, whatever the one of some things like that, wouldn't that? Could we all agree that we would want our kid? I mean, would you rather know about the Pilgrims or be honest? Or would you want to know how to do some sort of uh, algebra equation or have integrity? You don't really have to make those two decisions. You can have both. I get that. But what I'm saying is, these are the top I want my children. No matter whatever they learn in school, they got to be honest, have integrity, good work ethic, and so on. So let me ask you this: if if we all agree that the top things we want are honesty, integrity, and things like that, when is the last time you spent any amount of time being intentional in teaching your kids about honest integrity, good work ethic? Oh, but Russ, my kid sees me go to work every day. He said, no, 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 I get that. But when have you actually, now we've probably done a really good job of showing them how to do the dishes. We've probably done a good job of mowing the yard, or we've probably done a good job of getting that curveball down in basketball, or that jump shot in basketball. Curveball in baseball and jump shot in basketball. We probably spent some time, they're practicing their trumpet, trombone, clarinet, oboe, whatever they play in the band. We probably spent plenty of time on those things. But a while ago, we were saying, hey, the top things we want, honesty, integrity, and those things. When have we had conversations about those things? When did we? It's the most important, but we're gonna turn it over to the church, or we're gonna turn it over to the school system, and we're gonna hope they get all that information. Wait. The top 4 or 5 things I want for my child, I'm gonna hope somebody else teaches them. Yeah, I get it. We teach by example. I get that. I really do. And that's a great teacher. Hopefully, it's a good teacher. And I'm sure for me, I've taught my kids by example what to do and what not to do. But don't we want to make those things intentional? Don't. Let me share with you some ways to do that. One is you're driving down the road. I mean, I've had this. I've had this happen. Give me the wrong amount of change. $10 too much. That's a great way to have a conversation with the kids. I know I've heard people say, "Well, that's their problem. They made a mistake." Well, no, that's not right. That's not how it works. This really happened. So, I my assistant had to I asked her to go get so much money. I think it was $2,000. We're going on a big trip. I said needed $2,000 in cash at the bank. About an hour later, the bank calls her and says, "Hey, we're missing $1,000. Could you count it?" She counts it, and then they called back again. They said, "Hey, and we're still at that. Would you double, triple check?" And she did. All right, and I hadn't seen it. Well, she handed me the cash, And then she came in there, and about an hour later, I thought, well, I'm going to count the cash. Well, I counted the cash, and there was $3,000 in there. And I called her back there, and I said, hey, there's actually 3,000. She said, yeah, that's right. And I said, but I only sent you for 2,000. She said, oh, I thought you sent me for $3,000. And so I picked up the phone. I called the bank, said, hey, this situation and all. But this was an opportunity for me to share this with the kids. I could have said, well, it's their mistake. It's their mistake. I'm sure there's some law against that. You can't really keep money from a bank. But just like going to a drive-through, I got $10 extra change. Good opportunity to talk about honesty and integrity with my children. There's some other things that I want to know. We have kids nowadays that stay in front of a computer or a device of some sort and can't function with humans. Well, I can tell you, I thought it was important, so I've been intentional with our children. Every one of our children, they know how to do a firm handshake, eye contact, carry on a conversation. You know how you go to someone and say, "How you doing?" Fine. How'd your day go? Good. Are you liking school? Yeah. No, my kids, we practice. I've taken them to big events and introduced them to important people in the community and we've taught them this is how you do this. This is how you carry on a conversation. This is how you don't say yes or no, sir. I mean, you do say yes or no, sir, but you don't say, how you doing? Fine. How was your day? Good. No, we want to teach them to have a real conversation with real adults and be able to function in society. And that didn't happen by accident. We've been very intentional in this. And I'm not bragging, I'm just sharing with you that we can't abdicate our role as parents and hope it all works out there in the world. It's our responsibility. If they're just not getting it at school, it's on us. We've got to figure that out. We can't just give it to somebody else. I get it. There are challenges. There's broken homes and there's step parents and there's different weekends at different places and it's tough. But at the same time, it's still our role as a parent to see that they learn these things. So what's the top 4 or 5 things that you want for your children? I would implore you to please type them on notes on your phone now and then start making notes. Okay, I need to talk to my kid about this one. I'll talk to my kid about this one. I want to talk to my kid about that one. And over time, if you address it, they'll get so good at that and they'll understand what integrity and honesty is. So many people get in trouble because they didn't think it was wrong. What's the big deal? They made a mistake to my favor. It's their problem, and then they get in trouble for it. Or people think it's okay to cheat on your taxes. Well, by golly, that's the last thing. I'd rather face ISIS than the IRS. But it's our role as parents to not abdicate, not to be on the hope plan, hope it all works out. So I hope that helps with that question. So I got a lot of questions around teenagers with attitudes, and there's not an easy fix for this, but let me just share some things that I see darn near 100% of the time. Teenager with attitudes. Doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. I guarantee you, I would always ask this when somebody says my teenager has an attitude. They take it like, oh, it's just life. All teenagers have attitude. Well, there's some hormones bouncing around, but all teenagers don't have attitudes. They don't have to have attitudes. That's not a given. That's not like this is just how it is. No, if you accept it and you're going to live with it, yeah, it's going to be that way. But it doesn't have to be that way. We had some attitudes in our house, but we had an attitude at 6 by 6:30, 6:40, we're done. It's not going to be this wasn't a lifelong thing. And I know a ton of families where it's just not an option having a bad attitude for a teenager. But here's what I would ask. Who are your kids hanging around? Who's your teen hanging around? I guarantee you if they're hanging around 4 or 5 other boys or girls, whatever the case may be, that they're not the only one with the attitude. I'd say probably all of them have the attitude. That's who they're hanging around. Now, if it's an attitude like a little bit of disrespectfulness and you got to address it, that sort of thing. But if it's just the overall, man, just total cancer to the entire family and it's completely ripping your family apart, you're going to have to do something about that. And Here's some ways you can handle it. So your kids are hanging around the wrong people. What do you do about that? Well, if you have a really, 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 really good relationship with your child, you can have the conversation and reason with them. That is possible. We had a really good relationship with our child. They were hanging around somebody that was, and I'm not saying only hang around perfect people. No, these I'm talking about like evil. I mean, it was bad. We had the conversation. We're able to nip it in the bud. But I get that that's hard. That doesn't always work out that way. A lot of times it drives them closer to those people if you don't have a really, really good relationship with your child. So that's one thing you can do is have the conversation. I've also seen people, let's say that happens to be at your church or your school. I've seen where some parents did the hard thing and they said, hey, we're going to change schools. We're going to change churches because this is too hard on the family. It's not what's best. It's not even fair to the siblings who are having to live with the crap that goes along with this. It's just not right. So I've seen people change churches and schools in the same town, and that's been very helpful. Hard, but not nearly as hard as not doing something. So there's something. I've actually seen where parents moved to another state. Dad gets another job, accepts being transferred, and they move across the state just to get away from the distraction. And it's not like a minor distraction. I mean, it's just serious, just terrible for the family. It's ripping the family apart, what they're going through. So that's it. And I've got a whole bit on discipline with teenagers, that sort of thing, that we'll talk about with all children. I can talk about it at a later date, but that's another thing. But here's the best way to handle your child hanging around the wrong person. Stay so in tune with who they're hanging around. Nip it in the bud early. So because it's so much easier to break up a clan of clowns when they're 6, 7, 8 years old. It's a lot easier to say, hey, you can't hang around them when you're 6 or 7 than when you're 14 or 15. Can you imagine going to a girl who's 14 or 15 and she's been with those same friends since first grade and you're going to say you can't hang around them anymore? Yeah, that's going to be really tough. That's going to be super tough right there. So the earlier you get it, the better. I mean, so much earlier. And then pay attention to that. I'm not trying to shelter from everything under the sun. I'm just saying you want to, when it is truly messing up your entire family and it's just a disaster that you're going to have to do, and you see destruction heading, your kid heading down a path of destruction, you got to do something about that. And it's going to be hard, but it's not nearly as hard as not doing something. Here's another idea that I've seen help it. It's worked for us. I've seen it work for many families, and that is invite that group of kids over to your house. Let them have dinner with you. Let them see your values. Let them see your character and integrity. Invite them on family outings, whatever that is for you. Invite them on your family vacation, and let them see how a family operates with love and respect, and it gives you opportunities in the movie. Sit down and have movie night and watch movies where you can pause it and have really good conversations about the movies or whatever the case. Now, all that may sound weird and like, oh, that's pie in the sky stuff for us. No, it's really not. The alternative is your teen goes down a path of destruction and you just sit there and watch the train wreck and don't do anything about it because you're too chicken or too cowardly to do something about it. You know, it is hard watching your kid self-destruct. It's so as hard as it is to try some of these other things. I would do these other things 10 times over. And I've had to do some of those things. I've had to go to somebody's house and say, hey, you're not going to do this. I've had to do that. And it's weird. It's hard. But by golly, worth it. Worth it. So if you got a teenager with an attitude, that's something that you got to deal with. Well, I'm going to make this video short, and that's for a change, because I usually could talk all day long, but I am going to do another one on some discipline. I have a couple long ones on discipline, but there's some things that I've left out of those that I'll add to the next one. And I hope this helps. You don't have to have crazy teenager years. You really don't have to have teenagers with attitudes. I've seen it over and over where that's not really happen to be the case. I feel like our kids too are really bright. I think they have the capacity. Maybe they're not acting bright, and maybe they're making dumb decisions. But I think that's a great spot where us as parents can come in and nurture them and point them and be very intentional and helping them become who they should be, and as decent members of society and just top notch people with integrity and leaders and good communicators and whatever else you want for your child. I think they're capable of that. You may think, oh no, I'm giving up. He's just going to be glued to that computer. No, it doesn't have to be that way. It's only that way because we're still allowing it. Well, I hope this helps. I hope you enjoy the Q&A. Keep those questions coming. Russ at the 17laws.com, and I'll see you next time.